Good evening, football fans. It is Wednesday night, and this is Southbound and Down, the premier NFC South focused podcast. Another week of football is behind us, and we will look back at the games played by these teams in the NFC South. If you're watching and want to participate in the conversation, reach out to us on Twitter at FanFirstPro using the hashtag FFP. Let me introduce the panel tonight. It's the guys you all know and love. Here we've got representing the Bucks, Gene Thomas. Gene, where can people find you on Twitter? And do you have a podcast going on this week? All right, Gene is having some technical difficulties, so we will go to Greg Barber. Greg, where can they find you at on Twitter?
You can find me at Attention on Twitter. So yeah, I'll definitely feel free to me, and I'll definitely follow back.
And Greg is helping us on the website CarolinaCatChronicles.com. That is the website for this podcast and our sister podcast, the C3 podcast on Tuesdays. He's helping us with our NFL rankings, and he covers the AFC North as a division for us on the website. We also have on the show representing the Falcons, Mr. Aaron Freeman. Aaron, I know you are on the interwebs a lot, and where can they find you on Twitter?
They can find me on Twitter at FalcFans. I'm got my own site, FalcFans.com. Just dropped the podcast today. You can find that at FalcFans.com or thefalcoholic.com.
Awesome. Can't wait to hear from you tonight. I'm sure you got some things to get off your chest. And last but certainly not least, Mr. T Money. How are you, sir? I hope your night is going well. Where can they find you on Twitter? And I know you're all over the place, so tell them where else they can see your work.
All right. The Twitter is T Muhammad 23. The YouTube, Mr. T Money 1993. Definitely the Panther fans, go check out one of my last videos, pretty much talking about that game and how important keep pounding was to that game. Also, for anybody who has SoundCloud, if you look up the Mac Attack, I was on their show this morning, calling in. That's about. Oh, and the Cat Chronicles website. So yeah.
Yes, you are a member of the C3 network. That is for sure. All right, Gene. Hopefully, will be joining us again here in a moment. But in the meantime, we're gonna start this show. All right. Well, we're gonna start with the Saints since Gene isn't here right now. Saints versus Giants. What a game this was! It was an offensive display for sure. We had 101 points combined, and the yardage was 1,034 yards. Can you believe that? 1,000 yards of net offense or gross offense in this game? It's unbelievable. It's obvious. It's obvious defenses did not show up in this, so there's really not a whole lot to talk about there. Let me start with Drew Brees, 505 yards. What was that,
505 yards, yep, 7 touchdowns. I said, yeah, 505 yards, 7 touchdowns. It was the first time I could say, yeah. And
but it's gonna,
one of them, and one of the picks, it was a little questionable on that one, I thought.
Okay. Well, I know.
But either way, I mean, it is.
Going in and out on mine.
When you put the ball up 50 times, you're gonna have an interception or two, and that's what Drew Brees did. He put it up 50 times in this game. So I don't think 2 interceptions, considering that, is too bad. What I think is more impressive me. What's more impressive to me is the fact that these two quarterbacks combined hit 17 different receivers. I thought that was pretty impressive statistic.
I mean, Yeah, Bushman spread the ball. Don't get me wrong. I have to give it to Eli Manning too. He really played a great game.
Yeah, 350 yards and 6 touchdowns, 3 of which went to Odell Beckham Jr. He had 8 catches for 130 yards in the game. Ben Watson showed up again in a big way. 9 catches, 147 yards.
Yeah, he made some really key catches. So did Colston, actually. I mean, it's funny how that, like I said, it's the first time I can say that offense from the first quarter to the fourth quarter actually played like a Saints football team that I used to see and I loved, and that I like to see. You know, that we saw what Peyton always had wanted. You can see, I thought the chemistry was definitely there, a lot better. Even with having Colston involved helped out, because he even caught, I think it was over 100 yards himself.
He did.
You know, and
he did.
You know, you still got catches. Yeah, he got over 100 himself. Willie Snead. Yeah. I mean, he had a 53-yarder that he actually could have tapped on in. That was pretty good. You know, that was good for us. I mean, for nobody was around.
Something to think about though. Each time Watson has a good game, that makes me think was it Graham or is it the system?
Good point. Good point.
It might have been the system a lot more. It might have been the system a lot more because I mean you got to think about it. He's having Graham type games in here, you know. And don't get me wrong, it's still not really diminishing Graham because I mean you're talking about a guy who's 6'7" and can be a matchup nightmare. But I mean at the same time, Watson still getting open, doing a lot of the same things, and still, you know, he's getting a lot of the same results when they really throw to him. So I mean it is kind of a question that people probably will ask.
Well, let's be honest, too. Benjamin Watson isn't a slouch. You know what I mean? He's not a bum out there doing this. I
don't think Saints fans, because when I saw that, because when I talked to most Saints fans, it seemed like they were thinking Josh Hill was going to be the one putting up crazy numbers because he had all of the touchdowns last year. I don't really know a lot of Saints fans that would say Benjamin Watson's ball this year.
Well,
it's funny you say that. I was going to say right before training camp, a lot of people thought Josh Hill was going to be the one to take the spot and do that, make the numbers. Because, I mean, he'll have some principles himself. He's actually not too bad of a receiver. And everybody kind of looked at Watson as kind of, you know, he is more of a blocking tight end, that type of deal. But when we saw in training camp, Watson was the one that was actually playing very well in training camp. He pretty much, you know, he kind of like almost practically a tight end job in training camp. And he was actually making a lot of plays and doing a lot of it. And so, you know, it was a little bit of a surprise, but it was also a question too, can the Saints defense cover tight ends? And, I mean, I don't know. That's a tough question because, I mean, not too many tight ends have really had big days against us. So that's, I mean, it's still kind of embarrassing.
Well, speaking of tight ends and having good games against your defense, Stephon Anthony had 11 tackles in the game, and he's the rookie, isn't he?
Yeah. Yes, he's a rookie.
From Clemson?
He's a rookie. I mean, like I said, I think our defense. Yeah, he's from Clemson. Okay. Yep. He played alongside Vic. You know, but I mean, the defense, even though they gave up technically 42 points in this game, sometimes they had a couple of penalties that sustained drives. They had one of them where they had a sack fumble, and they called this really tick-tack penalty on Bro that actually overturned the sack fumble that we had, and ended up giving the ball back to the Giants, and the Giants ended up coming in and scoring. But a couple of other drives, Browner had a couple of penalties that ended up extending drives and ended up turning into scoring opportunities. And I mean, if you think about it, we were also 1 of 8 on third down. We pretty much third down that whole game out of 8 chances. So, you know, the defense, don't get me wrong, we gave up a lot of points, but the defense wasn't as much, it wasn't as cheese as it shows on the surface. When you look at some of the, I mean, we had 3 sacks, And I mean, they moved. They definitely moved. They moved him off the ball. They moved him off his spot a lot. Moved Manning's spot a lot. But at the same time, I just think. I mean, the defense still need work. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely.
Yeah, obviously.
But this is not a game. I wouldn't crucify him as much in the game as some people would like to do it.
See, I don't know if 3 sacks is as impressive in that type. Because how many times did Eli throw?
41.
Yeah, 41.
So 3 out of 41 you getting a sack.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, in a normal game where you get a normal amount of pass attempts, that's impressive. But 41 dropbacks, I'd like to see a little bit more.
Right. You're right. I mean, considering how many times he put the ball.
Well,
up.
I mean,
but I guess it's
a lot in the move mark.
Okay. Right, and so there were pressures there and some quarterback hits, but you only got to him 3 times. Gene, you had an opinion about this game.
Yeah, like I said, the defense, the way they were, what is this, the 3rd highest scoring game in history?
I think so.
With the 103 points. The defense on both sides, it was just amazing. It's just they gave up. And that speaks to Drew Brees, and I know everybody kind of wrote him off at the beginning of the season, but just seeing him going out there and scoring all those touchdowns, no field goals, just touchdowns.
Right.
That's impressive.
I agree.
The most impressive thing was some of those types of throws, like putting the ball in places where only his wide receiver can do it. I haven't seen Brees do that in a long time. I remember. Top of my head, one of the Cook's touchdowns where he throws it over 2 guys perfectly on the sideline and Cook scores on.
Yeah, he does.
So seeing him have that accuracy and that ball placement to put it anywhere he wants is what impressed me even more so than throwing for that many touchdowns.
Right, the small windows he's able to fit the ball in.
I thought Brees would push for maybe challenge for 6,000 yards this year. And I'm glad to see that he had one game that at least makes that prediction not look crazy. If he can get a couple more like this, then maybe he might get to close to 6,000.
Yeah, for sure. Now, all he needs a couple more.
The Saints have one of the easier schedules in the NFC this year. You never know.
Right, you never know.
I said it tonight during Team Boy TV show. I wouldn't be surprised if we get 3 teams in the playoffs.
Right. It could happen. It absolutely could happen.
Well, after last year, it would surprise the fool out of me. Because last year we were pretty abysmal. And actually, I heard them say this year that the AFC South is last year's NFC South.
They are. Oh, God, yeah, they are.
And I thought that was pretty funny.
NFC is pulling up the rear pretty quick.
I don't even know if they finish as good as we finish. I don't know if
you're right.
Get 7 wins.
I don't know if they can get 7 wins. I agree. I
agree.
Right. Something like that.
You could easily have a 5-11 or 6-10 division winner.
Speaking of the Colts, they let go of Pep Hamilton, the offensive coordinator, and they promoted Rob Chudzinski, who was the Panthers offensive coordinator the very first year Cam was here. And if you remember, that year we had Greg Olsen and we had Jeremy Shockey. And Cam lit it up with those 2 tight ends. So, the Colts have Fleener and the other guy from Clemson, the tight end from Clemson. I think it's Allen. So I'm interested to see what that offense is going to look like now.
See, but I think, me personally, if I'm going to fire somebody in the middle of the season, it's got to be the head coach's guy.
Right. I think so too.
I think to just do a coordinator, you gotta totally blow it up.
Yeah, I mean,
we saw how much.
I think that was more for the fans, though. I think that was more to tease the fans.
Nah, I think it was selfishness. I feel like Chuck Pagano has always wanted Rob Chudzinski.
Really?
Well, what you hear is that Chuck Pagano doesn't have final say over his coaching staff or any of the decisions. So it's really who's the GM?
Owner.
Irsay?
No, the GM, Brian Hickson. He's really the one who's making all the decisions. That's one of the reasons why it seems
Ryan
like
Gregson,
everything's falling apart.
Yeah, the only reason why I would say that is it's not like they just Chud out the blue. Chud has been an offensive assistant technically since last year, which would lead me to think that they were just looking for an excuse to get Pep Hamilton out of there.
So they could put Chud in his place.
Yeah.
Could be. I hate to be a conspiracy theorist, but that could be the case.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they scapegoat the dude. I mean, it's just plain and simple. They scapegoated him.
And it doesn't necessarily help. I mean, look at Caldwell with the Lions.
It's true.
What did you see? But did you? But did you see the interception that Luck threw? Some of them he was a mile away from the receiver.
Right. There was some bad.
Where at what point is that Pep Hamilton's fault?
Right.
Yeah. Where at what point is that Pep Hamilton's fault? That's what I'm saying. Some of that stuff hanging on.
People want to get so excited about Luck throwing all these big picks. Luck has always been a gunslinger. He's always thrown a lot of picks. It's just getting, it's looking more serious now because they're not getting them wins.
Right, and they don't have they're not getting the touchdowns to counterbalance.
Yeah.
But also too, the fact that the type of interceptions he's throwing now. What I'm saying, like I said, he's missing receivers by a mile. It's one thing if the defensive back made a good play. The defensive back is on the receiver, and he jumps the route or something like that and makes a good play. I'm not going to hate the quarterback on that one, because the other guy gets paid too.
All right.
When you throw the ball a mile away from your receiver, you're running.
We're way off topic.
But I'm just saying that's a terrible. Yeah.
I want to say two more things about the Saints game. The Saints did have 103 yards rushing as a team, which I think is important for them. I think they do need to have a run game. And then, secondly, Kyrie, is it his name, Kyrie Robinson?
He broke his leg.
So he's done for the year, right?
Kyrie Robinson.
Is that going to pose a problem, Greg?
He's done for the year. Yeah, they brought back Tim Hightower, who actually played very well in the preseason.
Okay.
And he actually made the final 53, but they cut him because of injury situations and had to bring somebody else in. So he's been basically, I guess, hanging out in New Orleans until he got a phone call. Okay. And now he got the phone call.
Tim Hightower been out the league before this year. Since he's been out of the league for a couple of years.
He wanted to pursue his art career or something like that.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on now.
But he actually looked pretty good in the...
Well, the Saints, that was definitely a great game for the Saints. They got the win, and it was, as many points as they scored, they still had to win it in the end, right before the clock ran out. So good win for them this week. We're moving on to the Bucs-Falcons game. Now, this was a really close game. The Bucs came out on top. It was a very hotly contested game. The Falcons appeared to have more talent if you're just looking at the rosters, but Tampa was playing, it seemed like, with some extra motivation. Quan Alexander, he had an interception and a forced fumble, seemed to be playing inspired football. And we found out that he was actually playing with a heavy heart. His brother, I think he was 19.
17.
Was 17, Jesus, even worse, was murdered. 17. He was shot in a fight. So I think that I think that kind of helped to rally the team. I'm not in any way saying that's a good thing. Don't get me wrong. In no way am I saying that. I'm just saying, one of their teammates was, they could tell he was sad. So they kind of rallied around him and used that to motivate them.
I'm just going to say I'm not going to put it on that because, we can all look around, but there was one person who said the Bucs was going to win.
There was one person that did say that, and he was right.
I would be like, huh?
Yes.
What you talking about?
Well, other than you, Tony does a radio show on Fridays in Greenville, North Carolina, and on that show they pick the games, and he picked the Bucs to win as well. So the two of you had that one right. The Bucks were up 20-10 going into the fourth quarter. Isn't that right, Gene?
Yeah, that's correct.
Did you have visions of Washington all over again?
Absolutely. I fear this secondary. I don't think there's a time I can remember the secondary being this bad. I want to say this bad, but yeah, this bad. I'm going to be honest with, because the way Matt Ryan, 4 turnovers, when you get a team like Atlanta and you get 4 turnovers and you have a lead, if you have a halfway decent secondary, you should be able to hold that lead. What I've seen throughout the season, Tampa Bay Bucks cannot defend the slant, and that's one of the most basic routes out there. And Julio Jones he is a great athlete, and you saw him torching that secondary play after play.
Mm-hmm.
And they finally, in overtime, came together and got a stop, and they were able to win the game. But the secondary just made me nervous the whole game, just waiting for Matt Ryan to explode. But they ended up playing good.
All right, Aaron. Okay, go ahead, Tim.
One, I mean, that's because you got spoiled by Rondé for about 25 years as far as his secondary play. And two, this made me think something. Is Julio that hurt, or is Quan Alexander that much of an athlete to catch him and strip that football?
I think it's both. I've seen him make plays. I've seen him make plays in preseason that everybody's like, who is this guy? And he's a rookie. And he's made plays throughout the season. But Julio ran him down on that interception.
Yeah.
So I think they were kind of competing with each other when that was the craziest strip I've ever seen, where he went in and just basically took the ball from him.
Yeah, because I was just like, normally Julio catches him, he make that one move, he gone.
Right, that's it. Nobody's gonna catch him. All right, Aaron. When you saw the score going into the fourth quarter, were you thinking Bucks, Redskins, and that the Falcons had a chance to come back and win this?
Going into the fourth quarter, I'd say no.
Okay.
But when they got that third score and sort of got a little closer and made it 20-13, then I was like, okay, the Falcons have a chance. I think the biggest thing my big takeaway from the game was how the Falcons basically didn't throw the ball down the field at all the entire game.
Mm-hmm. Everything was underneath.
Yeah. So, like, Matt Ryan, I think maybe had like 3 attempts more than 10 yards in the air. And you saw Tampa Bay push the ball down the field. Now, Jameis didn't complete a lot of those throws, but he got a couple. And then there was a couple more that wound up being pass interference plays that really gave them a big chunk of yards and helped swing the field. And it just seemed like the Bucs were more aggressive, as you said, Joe. They seemed like they were playing a little bit harder than the Falcons. I think the Falcons maybe just kind of went into this game thinking, oh, whether the Bucs, they'll choke or they'll lose. And then before it was too late, they were down 17 points in the third quarter, and they're like, oh, maybe we got to start showing up. And then they turned it on for those last 20 minutes or so, but.
I think a lot of that too. You remember last season? What was it? A 54-56.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a beatdown. That was a beatdown. And I think that some of the players left over from last season still remember that game, and that could be some of the motivation as well.
So there was some get back there.
Yeah, but I do think mostly it was the Falcons beating themselves with the 4 turnovers. It seems like if they just only turned the ball over 3 times and had scored in the red zone one of those times that they turned it over, they probably would have won the game. But, this has been how the Falcons have played the last couple of weeks, where they always seem to play poorly, So I don't even, no offense, I don't think the Bucs really played a great football game. I would probably grade it as like a C-level performance for the Bucs, but clearly the Falcons weren't even that good, and that was very disappointing because that's basically like 4 games in a row where the Falcons have been C- at best. And
that's my gripe right there. Like, how long can Falcon fans keep saying it? oh, we're barely winning because we're beating out. At a certain point, you have to realize that you have a problem. It can't just be, oh, we're just doing it to ourselves every
Yeah.
week, because every week we're seeing it. Every week we're seeing Matt Ryan mess up a handoff. Every week we're seeing a center quarterback exchange. I mean, maybe that means you need to get a new center or something. But once you're seeing it, it's not just something happening. It's starting to become a pattern, pretty much.
Here's the tale of the tape.
Right.
I went back and looked, and this is where the difference is. This Atlanta team in the last 3 games has 9 turnovers. 9 turnovers in 3 games. That is not going to win you very many football games. And that's it. They're their own worst enemy right now. They're kind of in a funk, like you said, whether it is quarterback center exchange mishap, quarterback handoff to the running back mishap, or an interception thrown. They cannot get out of their own way.
And T-Money said it right. Like you look at, he bought, against the Saints, they had a bad snap, they had a bad handoff. So you say, okay, those are fluky plays, but then it happened again this week. So It's like, how much, technically that's not a fluke if it happens twice in 3 weeks. So it's something going on with the Falcons. I feel like they sort of, they got off to that hot start. They were able, they were down in a lot of those games late in the games, and they were basically able to turn it on at the end and win the game. And it feels like the last couple of weeks they've been relying on that ability to basically, we don't really have to show up until halfway through the third quarter, and we'll be able to pull out the win. And that's bitten them in the butt multiple times these last couple of games. They barely beat the Titans a week ago, and the Titans had an F-level performance, and they barely beat that team. So it's one of those things where, like again, this week we go against the 49ers, and it's like, this is another terrible team, at least based off how the 49ers have played throughout the season. If the Falcons struggle again, then I think it's a realization, 5 weeks in a row, how is that not a trend where, despite their record will be 7-2 or 6-3, they aren't performing at a level comparable to other teams at that record level. So I'm hoping this week, they can sort of fix whatever issues that ail them.
They're in a funk.
Blaine Gabbert, they're not making the playoffs.
Exactly. If they lose to Blaine Gabbert, it is going to be something. They're going to fire a coordinator.
I was going to say the same thing. I was totally going to say the same thing. I was like, if you lose to Blaine Gabbert, just forfeit the rest of the season.
They lose to Blaine Gabbert, I'm not going to be on the show.
Somebody's going.
I'm not going to be on. I can't put my face on TV. I can't do that.
And they're going to be down a coach. They're going to have a new guy in
something else I noticed.
Somewhere.
Why?
Yeah, somebody will be fired somewhere.
It seems so much like they're making Matt Ryan a game manager. The more I watch the Falcons, the more I watch them this season, they're making Matt Ryan a game manager.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make sense. You should be so aggressive with him, with the talent they have out on the perimeter. Even Roddy White, he's not the player he was even 3 years ago. But he's still a savvy veteran. And then, of course, Julio. And, T-Money, you said something, is he really hurt? Well, we know he had been sort of babying some lower leg injury. But this game, he went crazy. So he didn't look like an injured player to me in this game.
Wow. I mean, you always had them plays that juice up your stats. I mean, that play you got stripped on, that was, a 50-yard, 60-yard?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's going to juice your stats up a little bit.
He basically, he had 99 yards in the first quarter, and he looked like, okay, the old Julio is back because he had a couple of big plays. And then after that, he had no passes go down the field more than 9 yards in the air.
Right.
And when you throw in short to Julio, you're really negating what his grade is. Like, the thing that teams fear about Julio is that the fact that he can stretch the field. And when you're throwing short stuff to him, it's just you're wasting his talent, and that was the frustrating thing.
And I thought that Jacob Tamme was killing that secondary too. He ended up with 103 yards and a touchdown. I thought that he made quite a bit of a contribution as well in that comeback.
Yeah,
it was one of his best games of his career.
Even Tony's boy Justin Hardy was showing up at the beginning.
And that was my next question was going to be, what did you think of Hardy coming in the game? Do you see him eventually this season supplanting Roddy White or Hankerson?
I think Roddy White, yeah, I'm hoping that he supplants Roddy White. Roddy White's done, and as far as I'm concerned, he's done. He really shouldn't even be on the team. That's how done he is. But, you know, he's Roddy White, and, you know, they're not going to cut Roddy White because he's Roddy White. He's the best receiver in Falcon history, but he's done at this point in time. You know, what people were saying about Andre Johnson a couple of weeks ago, you know, that's what Roddy White is, and probably not even that good. So I think Hardy is the guy. They need to start working him into the lineup because he's the future and Roddy White is the past. So, you know, but I'm a Roddy White hater, so that's why
I can tell.
Yeah.
I can tell.
I mean, he's a great receiver. He was a great receiver past tense. He's just a guy right now.
Right.
Yeah, see, don't worry, Aaron. I hate Roddy White too.
Okay.
That's one thing I can't stand that dude.
Gene, I want to ask you this. Did we see a little bit of maturation and this Bucs team kind of growing? Let me throw out a couple of things here. Winston, in overtime, converted 3 third downs to get into field goal range for Connor Barth. 3 third downs he converted. So are we seeing a little development here?
Absolutely. The big knock on Jameis Winston coming into the NFL was turnovers, and to date he has 1 fumble and 7 interceptions on the season. I think that he's done very good with keeping the ball out of the other team's hands. I mean, since the Carolina Panther game, he hasn't had any interceptions, and that's really good that he's cognizant of not turning the ball over. I've seen where he's been able to make plays with his legs, and I remember he ran above 5 in the 40, and that was another big knock on him. And he ended up with 24 yards rushing and a rushing touchdown. So we can see where Jameis Winston is maturing. He's not turning the ball over. There have been some throws that he hasn't made, and you know that I chalked it up to being a rookie. I expected more turnovers out of him, but I'm really impressed with how he's taken every game and every scenario and been able to improve off of it.
And that's something to think about, because if he had, 4 interceptions against us? That means he had, what?
Like his first game.
3 in the 8 other games? So that's definitely a big – I'm surprised to hear that stat, honestly. And I think I said it last week. The biggest thing when you're a young team is learning how to win and learning how to close out games.
Right.
And to you guys' credit, and I use the Carolina Panthers as an example, you can't get rid of the coach right away. I know there may be scenarios where this coach, you may not think this coach is the right fit, but it takes time to get his system in place. And we saw that with Ron Rivera, and you look what Ron Rivera has been able to do with the Carolina Panthers. He's been able to keep Cam Newton with, you know, in pretty much for the most of his career in the same system, and he's done good. Cam Newton has continued to improve as well.
He's grown.
Yes, absolutely.
Let me give you an example of what we're talking about here. You look at the Panthers and how they allowed Ron Rivera to come in and say, all right, look, this is your job. Just make it happen. They brought the GM in, the right GM, and said, you know, build this team.
Yeah.
So they did that. Let me tell you who didn't do that, and that is the Tennessee Titans. They fired Wisenhunt. He was there not even 2 years.
No, he hasn't been 2 years. No.
And they fired him. I mean, how can a coach do anything in less than 2 years?
Well, what I will say that is what Ken Wisenhunt had working against him is he wasn't that good with the Cardinals either. I mean, them last couple of years, I mean, yes, he had John Skeleton and Kevin Cobb, but he was struggling then. He was going
but you have to think about the quarterbacks that they had in Arizona were horrible. And
when they had Kurt Warner, he took him to the Super Bowl.
Right. But after that,
some of those quarterbacks.
Yeah,
that
was
the
true.
Problem. That what doomed him. He gave up those picks for Cobb.
He wanted Cobb.
And it just, basically when he hasn't had Ben Roethlisberger, Kurt Warner under center for him, or Phillip Rivers when he was a coordinator in San Diego, his teams have been terrible, and that's really, he got fired over a body of work that wasn't probably based off of what he did in Tennessee, as T Money said.
Yes.
It's like 5 years of like, okay, this is not going to get better because we haven't seen him coach a good team since 2009.
Right.
So that was probably held against him.
And keep in mind that they've had 4 coaches in 6 years. That is not that turnover in personnel, turnover in staff is not going to get anything stabilized, and you can't win that way. There's no way you can win that way.
Look at Mariota. He's been with the coach, what, 8 months? And now he's got to start all over again? You know? Let me tell you, they're already headed in the wrong direction.
With Mike Mularkey.
Because on the offensive line, they had Byron Bell playing guard. And I think it's Mike Munchak that's their coach now. He went ahead and moved Bell out to tackle. So T Money and I and the rest of you guys saw how Byron Bell is at a tackle. All right, so they're already headed in the wrong direction. That's what I'm saying. Already, guy hasn't even coached his first game. So I think it's not fair to Mariota, who's a talented kid, who I think can make it in this league, given the right circumstances. But now you're putting him behind the 8 ball.
I agree.
But I think part of me thinking that they fired Wisenhunt at this point. I wonder if they already got a coach in mind. They have somebody in mind that they're not hiring until after the season, because there's no point but they just kind of figuring, you know what, we just go ahead and clean house now and get it over with. Because there's nowhere in the world they can sit there at the board table and say Mike Mularkey will make things better.
Exactly.
Mike Mularkey? No.
No, I agree.
Mike Mularkey is not going to do anything.
I will say that.
He's not the
best head coach.
To go ahead and just blow them out.
Say that again, T-Money?
I won't say he's a good head coach, but he did help Matt Ryan in them early years.
Do you mean development?
Yeah, when he was offensive
coordinator
for the Falcons.
I also let him explain about the guy. They hated the dude. They were glad for him to get out of there. I mean, I maybe ask Aaron. Aaron might know better, but I've heard those fans could stand Mike.
I think he did. You know, if you looked at 08, you would probably look at Mike Mularkey. I was very impressed with him that first year, but then after that, it just kind of got stagnant.
I heard some Falcons fans complain about Dirk Cutter. See what he doing.
That's true. Then well, of course, if they're not winning, they're not happy.
I know that has to be sweet for Dirk Cutter. You lead a team and you stay in that division and you beat that team your first time playing them.
Yeah, that's sweet revenge, you know. Yeah.
Quarterback, I'm sure you feeling pretty like I'm pretty smart, ain't I?
You're probably right. I'm sure he's patting himself on the back right now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that was a great game. You know, it wasn't the shootout that the Saints game was, but it was very hard fought. And like another point I want to say real quick about Winston. There were a few throws if he would have hit that would have scored and made it a different game. A few deep throws. A couple he underthrew the guys, and I think one he overthrew the guy.
And
but
keep in mind,
close.
And keep in mind, Vincent Jackson is out, and the slot receiver is out as well. They're missing. Yeah, they're missing Lewis Murphy. They're missing some pieces, but he's still able to work with what he has, and that's positive for me. That's improvement over last season, because it didn't matter who we had on the field last season. It was just a bad situation for the most part.
Right.
Something else that would make me think, if I'm a Falcons fan, again, another week where they struggle with a tight end.
Good point. The middle of the field is a big question mark for them.
With the linebackers and
is it Warlow? Warlow. Does he have trouble in coverage, Aaron?
Everybody that plays linebacker and safety for the Falcons has trouble in coverage.
That is not what you want to hear. That is not what you want to hear as a fan.
Especially when you have Greg Olsen coming in December twice.
Right. That's for sure.
And Ben Watson coming back.
But I'll say that for that.
But yeah, that's obviously a weakness. Somebody's got to address that. Dan Quinn needs to get his defensive staff together and figure out who they need to put where.
We're trying to get the pass rush going so we don't have to worry about that. But that's going to be a problem for the rest of the year, pretty much, until the pass rush shows up.
Who's the guy with the long hair?
You don't have Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor, Bobby Wagner, and the rest of them guys in the middle of the field.
Mm-hmm. That is the biggest problem. You're right. Where in Seattle, he had that kind of talent.
You can run single high all day with Earl Thomas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he could.
Aaron, I wanted to ask you about. Anyway, it fell right out of my head. All right, we're going to move on to the Panthers. Monday night game, it was like a monsoon that they were playing in. Rain, the field was saturated. The ball was just slipping and sliding. It was just an absolute mess. They are the cardiac cats. Wouldn't you say that's a fair name for them, the cardiac cats, because they keep you on the edge of your seat? We were talking last night about it, how they probably have the highest rated watching of the entire game through the fourth quarter, because their games are always so close. No matter the opponent, unfortunately, they're always playing to the caliber of the team on the other sideline. Luck looked pretty bad, wouldn't you say, until the fourth quarter?
It was like two different versions of Luck. Which, right. if you really watched the game and you was listening, look how the broadcasting changed. It went from, Luck looks really hurt. Luck looks beat up. Maybe the ribs is really bad. And the fourth quarter is, Luck's looking so good now. Luck's making good decisions. This is the old Andrew Luck right here. This is Andrew Luck we've been waiting. Why wouldn't he hurt no more? Either he is hurt or he ain't hurt, man. That was my thing. But that defense, Andrew Luck 40 yards at the beginning of the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
that boys over there, man.
And they were playing so well, but then in the fourth quarter, you could see they were gassed. They were just tired. And I think the biggest part of their success against Andrew Luck was the fact that they were able to rush him. You know what I mean? They were able to hurry him along. And in the fourth quarter, you could see they had really. When you think, I don't know how many of you played football, but when you play in conditions like that, you're exerting more energy because the field is so slippery and slick that you have to really be careful with your movements. You can't be as, I don't want to say reckless, but you can't be as fast with your movements. You have to be a little
because you're worried about hurting yourself running in those conditions. Yeah.
Right. Or slipping. I mean, there's so many things that you have to just do different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they were just exhausted. Yeah. The defensive line was, and we were down a few players.
3 on the defensive line.
3 on the defensive line. Who weren't playing, so our depth was gone. So guys saw a lot of minutes.
Yeah. And
it. No
CJ Mario or Dewan Edwards.
Right. It showed up in the fourth quarter. And our offense didn't help any either. We were getting, 3 and outs, a turnover, that kind of stuff in the second half.
And I have to chime in here.
Please.
Ted Gin and Juice is killing me. He's killing me, man. I had to get him on my fantasy team. That guy, that drop, I'm not a Panthers fan, but that drop made me sick. That ball was right in his hands, right here.
In his hip pocket.
Yep.
That was a touchdown. That was a touchdown.
That made me sick.
Hit him in the perfect. Hit him in the perfect play.
He had me yelling out, but the one thing I will say is he never gives up. I mean, in the first half, he had that one where he dropped that long pass. He comes back with the 50-something yard pass, and then he dropped that touchdown, and then he comes back on that key drive and gets the 12-yard catch on the slant.
And Joe, didn't you compare him to Willie Gault?
It wasn't me. It was actually Chris Jenkins, who does Charlotte Vibe in Charlotte. He was on our show last night, and he said Ron Rivera was thinking about Ted Ginn the other day on the way into the facility, and he said when he thought about Ted Ginn, it reminded him of Willie Gault from the Bears in '85, how fast he was, and it was like ungodly speed, but his hands were so inconsistent.
Yeah.
You remember Willie Gault?
Yeah,
oh, of course, absolutely. I remember Willie.
Yeah, he was a big time return guy. He was Teddy Ginn before Teddy Ginn was there. So that's what he said about
another one you could think there was Ronaldo Nehemiah was another one.
Yeah, with the Niners. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But couldn't catch a cold. So yeah, that was frustrating. But then you know what? A few plays later, Teddy Ginn makes this beautiful catch with all hands. He's sliding to the ground on a quick slant route. I mean, it was a beautiful catch.
He catches better on the ones he has to snag out the air and not that drop perfectly in your bread bag.
Right. And Tony thinks it's because in one, it's like when you're returning a punt, it's coming to your bread basket too, but you're running to the ball. Whereas when you're a receiver and it's coming, you're looking away, running away from the ball. He thinks that's where the disconnect is.
But the way he catches it, I mean, that's the way you would prefer to do it. If anything, I mean, I used to play a little receiver. The hardest thing is the ones that's like directly over your head where you have to just stick
like this. Yeah.
But that's not how he catches it. He catches it on the side. So I don't know why I don't know.
Well, the first thing is they tell you not to let the ball get into your body, that you should try to catch everything with your hands.
And bring it in.
Right, and then bring it in. Aaron, what did you think of did you even watch the game on Monday night?
I definitely saw the overtime. I did see that take and drop. I thought the Panthers, they choked a little bit, but, they finished the game. And it was, that's what you want. The Panthers aren't really a team that's built to sort of, put up 1,000 points or anything like that. They're going to rely on getting that early lead and then playing strong defense. And, they did that for most of the game until the very end. And then they did it again in overtime with the interception that really set up the game-winning field goal. So, they're playing their style of football, which has been very effective, obviously, because they're undefeated right now.
Yeah,
that was one of those plays. So much stuff that frustrates me. It's like Charles Tillman will frustrate me half the game, and then he comes up with those two big deflections on the deep passes. And I'm like, okay, Charles, we ain't got to fight today. Burt had the game, and then he comes up with the play to win it. Luke drops a pick. I'm like, Luke, what are you like?
In the end zone.
Right, that's the ball game. Then we had the fall, the 1 yard line.
Yep.
How many free agents does Carolina have at this point right now that are playing, as opposed to drafted players?
Roman Harper, Tillman.
Yeah.
Jared Allen, Kirk Coleman.
Yeah.
So that right there is like five guys right there.
But a lot of the players for Carolina are more draft picks than anything, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, a lot of the star players. I hate to use that term, but a lot of the more well-known.
They are, but the media is not going to give you your credit. So they are.
Right.
Go ahead and say it.
Right. Well, you got Cam, Keekly, KK, Charles Johnson, Josh Norman. All those guys were draft picks.
Yeah.
Will, Norwell.
Right. Well, Norwell was a free agent, I think.
Signed him as undrafted.
Yeah, he was on the streets. He was nobody had him. So we've got a mix on our team. We've got some drafts, some free agents, but the chemistry is good. We really have a good chemistry.
Think of something that your boy RTP said that made me think, Gene. he was saying that up at this point, y'all been drafting pretty much all offense every draft. So what
Pretty
happens
much.
when y'all come next year and y'all let Lovey draft his defensive player, which made me think a little bit.
I think of Jason Light. We have a good general manager. You look at Tyrann Mathieu in Arizona. A lot of people wouldn't have touched him, but the Cardinals drafted him despite what he went through a good vetting process. I guess for me, Jason Light has a bigger hand in drafting these players than what Lovey did in Chicago. So I think it'll be different. And you look, Quan Alexander was the one player that we drafted this season. He's a rookie, and he's playing pretty good. And I think that we'll continue to see that. Right now, what we're seeing with the secondary, these aren't the players that Lovey really wants, but they're players that he's plugged into the system for now. So I think you'll see a different team next year as compared to what you're seeing right now.
Yeah. In his video today, that made me think that they really haven't started drafting their defense the way they want to draft it yet.
I mean, you could go all the way back to John Gruden, and Aqib Talib and Darrelle Revis are the only really two good defensive backs that Tampa's had over since John Gruden, if you think about it. I mean, they just haven't addressed that position a whole lot. Tenard Jackson, but he couldn't stay out of trouble. But other than that, you look at who Tampa has had in recent years, they haven't really done a whole lot at that secondary position.
Yeah. About this Panther game, one of the things I wanted to say was the Panthers are undefeated when Cam rushes for 10 or more times in a game. Guess how many times he ran the ball on Monday? 10. 10 rushes.
11?
Jay Stu had 82 yards rushing. I think that's an important statistic because we can't have Cam running the ball every time. We have to get some production from Stewart. He had 24 carries for 82 yards, so he was toting the rock, and there were a lot of plays where he just got back to the line of scrimmage. But nevertheless, we still had to do it. We have to keep defenses honest.
Yeah, I agree with that, but it annoys me some of the fans get excited about the whole, well, Cam runs too much. He's 6'5", 260. It's not like he's RG3 out there.
Right.
I've never, this year, I've never seen Cam take a hit where I'm like, ooh.
Right.
I see him run people over and I get excited. But he's when they did the measurables about how big he is, how high he can jump, how fast he is, that's just wow.
Yeah, he's built to be able to take some hits. Now, you don't want him running the ball 24 times, obviously. But 10 times is a very reasonable number for a man his size and with his abilities. Everything in this game was close. When you look at the statistics and everything, they're all within just a matter of 10 yards of each other, passing, rushing. When I looked at the total yardage, there was a 20-yard difference. That's it. So this game was, tight on the scoreboard and, as it was played, whereas like the Falcons-Bucks game, the Falcons just dominated statistically.
Yeah.
But the Bucks, ended up pulling it out in the end. And I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think of the Panthers up to this point in the season? I know you guys obviously don't want them to win, but setting aside your personal dislike and just looking at it from a football perspective, do you think they have a chance to make a deep playoff run?
Absolutely. Most definitely. I mean, they're winning that game against the Colts is a good example. When you can win a game where somebody comes back and they have the momentum going into overtime, and you come back and win that game, that speaks volumes. That lets us know that they're able to win games under different scenarios, and those are the games. It doesn't always have to be a blowout, but if you can go out and win a close game and eke out that game, it holds. It's very important going into the playoffs because number one, it gives you experience against certain playing scenarios going into the playoffs, and also it definitely gives your team confidence.
Yeah, I think the thing with the Panthers.
I mean, it's a team.
Go ahead, Aaron.
I think the thing with the Panthers is, I think their Achilles heel is whether or not they, the ideal way of beating the Panthers is getting them to play from behind and forcing them out of their comfort zone. And because the way the NFC is being played out this year, there's really only one team that's you really look like that's a definite playoff team that could really do that, and they play the Panthers this week is the Packers. So, like, I feel like if the Panthers have a strong showing against the Packers, then they're really in the driver's seat as far as controlling their destiny moving forward. So I do feel like their defense and the way Cam has been playing is going to allow them to do a lot of things come January.
See, but with that point, I honestly disagree. I mean, I don't think the Packers are explosive as everybody makes. Like, everybody talks about our passing game. I don't think a lot of people realize the Packers are 27th in passing the ball. It's not like they're going crazy either. I mean, I know.
Yeah, I don't even think the Packers are the Packers of old. But I think when you look at the NFC landscape, if you're looking at one team that could probably give the Panthers the most trouble, it's not Seattle. I mean, maybe it's Arizona if you think Carson Palmer and Larry Fitzgerald are going to have a monster game. It's not Atlanta unless Julio's does Julio things, and it's certainly not anybody from the NFC East. So you're looking at it
right now. The way Carson Palmer's been playing, weapons with John Brown. Well, he'd probably be healthy. John Brown, Larry Fitzgerald, Malcolm Floyd. The run game. I don't know what they did to Chris Johnson, but he actually looks like he's a
Chris Johnson.
Steroids.
And then their defense, I would say their defense is better than the Packers. So I would honestly, to me, right now.
But
I agree with that, Timo, but I understand the point that you're trying to make, Aaron, in saying that aside from the Panthers, there are only I can't even say a handful. There may be 2 or 3 teams that look like they would be able to match up well with the Panthers in the NFC. The Packers are one, and I think you said the Cardinals, Aaron, and those 2 teams are the first teams that come to mind for me too. I'm sorry, Greg. Go ahead. We've been cutting you off all over the place.
Well, I was going to say, overall, I mean, from the way you guys are built, I mean, you're built to run the ball. You're also built to play as far as strong defense. You got a good defense. So, I mean, in that sense, you got to. I guess you could say you're built for the playoffs in that sense, because you got a strong defense, you got the run game, and effective enough passing game to get through. I agree with the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals can play that down and dirty type game that you guys play. They can run the ball just like you guys can, but they do have that element of the passing game that could maybe cause you a little problem. But they definitely got a defense that can slow you down.
Right.
Especially your passing game, and they got a stout enough defense up front. So I agree. The Cardinals probably more than even the Packers. But I mean, if Aaron Rodgers ever get that point where he can spread you out and really play you, then that's gonna be a big thing. But I mean, even coming into this game, you got to remember, one, you're coming into an embarrassed, pissed off, and pretty angry Aaron Rodgers in this. He threw for 77 yards, which is unheard of. Against Denver. So he feels like he's gonna have a little chip on his shoulder in this game. But here it goes. If you win, you're pretty much in the driver's seat for the NFC, and if you lose, you got a battle. You got a long battle still ahead. That's the problem. I don't know, like I said, the Green Bay game's not hard.
Go ahead, T-Money.
People acting like Aaron Rodgers is automatically going to play good because he had a bad game. People forget because they had a bye week, but that game before their bye, he had 4 picks.
Yeah, he hasn't looked good for the last couple of weeks, for sure. And we had a Packer writer on last night on the show, and he said the same thing. He said they're in a funk right now. He said he thought it was a great time for the Panthers to be playing him because of the funk that they're in. And he really couldn't. Right, Kelly Matthews is hurt. I think a lineman was hurt. Starks was banged up. All these guys were banged up, and The running game has been pretty absent this year. Eddie Lacy, Tony said that Eddie Lacy looked fat. It kind of like Lindell White back in the Tennessee Titan days.
I've heard that.
And he does. He looks slower. He looks bigger. Like he's not moving as quick as he did last year. So I think it's going to be a great test for the Panthers. I think we'll really, if we win this game, we'll get I think we'll get a little notoriety for it.
At that point, we'll pretty much be up 2.5 games.
Yeah, you probably would. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I say, you're very much in the driver's seat. But the only thing I'm just saying, keep in mind, you are playing, like you said, all the things that you listed, you're playing a wounded animal.
Mm-hmm, you're right.
That may not, as much as it seems like it may be easy to do, that's when sometimes the wounded animal will turn around on you and play above their heads. They know they've been in a funk. They know they got to straighten it out.
I'm definitely not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying it's going to be easy because I know it won't be. It's going to be a fight. It really is. It's going to be a great game.
But it's definitely a winnable game.
I think so. If we bring our A game.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, we're at home. That's going to give us, they're 2-point favorites is what I saw last. All right.
I felt like we're
Green Bay is 2 points.
Get 2 out of these 4 games, and we already did better than that.
Right. I tell you, I'm surprised at how well the Panthers have played this year, and I felt confident that they were going to be in the division, in the hunt for the division title, but I didn't feel like they would be 7-0 for sure. I would have, if you'd have told me that, I could have called you a liar before the year started.
Probably at this point would have said 5-2.
Right, 5-2. I would have been thrilled, just pleased as punch if we would have been able to be that. But anyway, I think the division is much more competitive than it was last year. We've seen significant improvement in the Bucs and significant improvement in the Saints, and these are teams that are, going to get better as the year progresses. Atlanta started off scorching hot. They've cooled off a bit, but I think they're going to get their stuff together. So it's going to be a photo finish, I think, in the division. Guys, I want to thank you for coming on again. It's 3 after 11. We did a fantastic job tonight of staying on point for the most part and getting out of here at a decent time. I look forward to next week where we get to do this all over again. Aaron, if you would, tell everybody where they can reach you in the interwebs.
People can check out my stuff at FalcFans.com. I'm on Twitter at FalcFans. Go check out the FalcFans Falcoholic podcast on FalcFans.com or the Falcoholic today. We had a guy from AtlantaFalcons.com, Andrew Hirsch, on the show to talk about the Bucs game and preview the 49er game. So check it out.
Awesome. You do a great job here on the show representing the Falcons, and we're glad you are a member of the team here. Gene, tell people where they can find you and what time your podcast is.
You can find me on Twitter at Super Heavyweight, and my podcast, Buck What You Heard. I've been trying to do it on Tuesdays at 10 o'clock Eastern Time with the daylight savings change for everybody, or change the standard time. It's moved back to 9, so look for it at 9 on Tuesdays.
Awesome. Greg, people, if they want to talk wrestling on the interwebs, on Twitter, where can they find you?
Find me at NGB. At NGB on Twitter. You can find me there.
If they don't find you at the Royal Rumble, they will find you on Twitter at IntenseG.
I may actually be at the Royal. I may actually go to the Royal Rumble.
There you go. And T-Money, aside from YouTube and aside from the C3 network, if people just wanted to tweet something at you, where could they do that at?
You can tweet me at tmuhammad23. I'm pretty much always on Twitter. Like the group of TTC guys, I'm sure we probably got the record by now for the longest Twitter conversation. it's like probably about 8 or 9 of us, and we probably been on that little same conversation feed for like 2 years, talking football all the time. So yeah. Other than that, the YouTube, Mr. T Money 1993, aka Straight Facts, because that's all I speak in this YouTube thing. That's it, man.
All right, and I'm Joe Riolano, at Joe Riolano on Twitter. I'm also known as the Freaking Puerto Rican. And it's been a real pleasure, guys, as always. I look forward to next Wednesday. And until then, be safe and God bless.